And welcome back, everybody. Well, that's a picture, an old picture, and Kevin Schultz is still with us, who's really the historian here at Historic Old St. John's. What are we looking at there? The bells that you talked about earlier, Kevin.
Absolutely, Joe. This is a picture of the 10 bells that were put into St. John's, actually in 1893. On March 19th of 1893, they were dedicated. They were here in the sanctuary. They moved them in, and as I said before, the heaviest weighed about 3,000 pounds. And they were blessed, and then shortly thereafter they were put into the bell tower, all by manual labor to hoist them up there, and they've been ringing ever since. The 10 bells, they play in the octave of G.
It was nice of you to invite me up there. I think I'm going to pass on that, and I'll take your description of it though, Kevin. The organ in the back, boy, that is a beautiful and big organ.
Certainly, when this organ was installed in the church, it was put in the spring of 1906. It was one of the largest organs in New York State. It was made right here locally by the Barnes and Buell Organ Company of Utica, New York. And at the time of its installation in 1906, it had 3,235 speaking pipes and 20 carillon bells that are behind the altar here that can be played. It had 63 stops. And it was one of his greatest works that Mr. Buell had done in constructing organs. And he constructed about 100 organs here throughout the state in his tenure as an organist and actually also as an organ builder.
And I know the Buell Organ Factory because I used to live, when I was a boy, right across the street from the Buell Organ Company, which was on Seymour Ave on the east side of Seymour between Ruchter and South Street. Sure. I didn't realize the history of the place then. How about on the side altar? What are we looking at on the side altar?
The side altar is our altar of repose, where we reserve the Blessed Sacrament. And again, that altar was given by Senator Francis Kernan and his wife, who was Hannah Devereux Kernan, who was actually the daughter of John Devereux. And it was given in memory of their daughter, who was a member of the Mesdames of the Sacred Heart, religious congregation of women nuns, and it was actually who died in 1870, she did, and it was actually dedicated on November the 12th of 1894.
When I was a boy growing up, not too far from here, it was referred to as St. John's. At some point, it got referred to as Historic Old St. John's. But that's really not the official name, is it, Kevin?
No, right. The official name was really, incorporated under the trustees of Central New York, of Western Central New York, the parish, when it was originally incorporated back in 1819. And that actually occurred on January the 25th of 1819. But through the years, it's been such a landmark to the city here, it has come really to be known as Historical Old St. John's.
Have you ever come over, driven west on Bleecker Street when the sun is just right? And the sun comes off these spires. It's a beautiful sight.
It's amazing, really. It's a beautiful setting. And as I said, the spires really have made it a landmark throughout the whole entire city and really the surrounding countrysides here in the area.
Are these pews, speaking of beautiful things, are these pews original to this church?
These pews are not. These pews came in under Monsignor Dooley in the 1950s when there was interior work done on the church, interior painting, and the pews at that time were installed. They were made of oak and they're really very, very beautiful and solid pews.
And speaking of paintings, over on this side of the church, on the north side of the church, we've got some paintings. Describe the one that I'm looking at now.
I think you're looking at their Christ in the tomb, which is called the Entombment. And we know that that came from the home of the Kernans, actually. It was given by Hannah Kernan, and it seems to have been put here sometime in the church just prior to 1897. In 1897, they celebrated the 25th anniversary of this building, and prior to that, the building cost originally $40,000 to build when it was completed in 1872. But from 1891 to 1895, $43,000 of work was done on the building, actually, which exceeded the cost of the actual building. And that painting was a gift from the Kernan family. And the other window here we look at is the Marian window. And again, this is dedicated to the Blessed Mother. Again, we can see Mary in the central portion is being crowned by God the Father and God the Son. We see the evangelist there, John, beneath it. We see then that actually below, Mary holding the dead body of Christ. To the left here is the Magi coming to adore the Christ child. And on the right side here we have what we call the Dormition, this falling asleep of Mary at her death. And again, it's surrounded by the holy people and holy apostles in the top lancets of the window.
Has there ever been a book done, Kevin, on the history of this church?
There have been actually several books done. My father was the one who wrote the last one. It was called The History of St. John's and Its People, which he wrote that around the year 2000.
And I think a lot of people would be familiar with your father's name.
I think they probably would be.
Yeah. Ray
Schultz, right, from Social Security. Many years.
Yeah, he was in that job for a lot of years.
Many years.
Have you ever thought about doing a book?
Well, I've been writing inserts for the Bulletin each week, and so we're on right now our insert number 30, which is documenting the history of the church.
And did you do that particularly because of the 200th anniversary?
200th, exactly. And I'm trying to uncover some aspects and facets that really haven't been researched before, that people may not have known, that weren't recovered when other histories of the church were done.
Such as? Give me an example.
Well, for example, the paintings that are here in the sanctuary, they have been here since 1894. One is up here onto the right side, as we're looking at the altar of the Madonna and Child. And those paintings were done by the firm of Arnold and Locke, which was located in Brooklyn, New York. And actually, Alexander Locke, who was head of the company, was a trained painter in painting actually murals and stained glass windows. And he was trained by the great John Lafarge, who was a wonderful, wonderful painter in New York City. And so those works, I mean, are wonderful pieces of work. They're all done in oil and canvas. And again, besides the stained glass windows, we have several other, like the window here in the top of the church over the altar, which was designed by William Gibson of New York City. And the painting was done by Henry Goitnick of the Munich School of Art.
What about the stained glass over the doors entering the church?
That's one area we don't have a lot of history on, those windows, but they appear to have been windows that were present here from 1872, because some of the other windows, there are very few that date back to 1872. Some date back to 1944 that were done here by Rambush, and the other ones date to 1950, but there are two on the side here that date back to 1872. Those appear to be windows that were probably pretty much in here in the building around 1870, at the time when it was, fairly completed, along with the ones that looked like Tiffany that are on the front windows of the front doors of the church.
And we've only got about 30 seconds, Kevin, but the lamps?
These lamps that are currently in here came from St. Francis de Sales Church. They were all relighted as part of the restoration and work that was done in 2012 that Father spoke about before. And again, they're beautiful lamps. Originally, the church had gas lamps in here that really are wound around the columns here to light the church.
I don't usually give advice to people, but I'm going to give you some. Do a book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It was an
honor.
honor.
Thank you for being with us. That's going to do it for this week. We'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com. Lots of good stuff there. Until next time, take care of yourself, everybody.